that's saying you guys belong to me, and you don't need to go over there or over there or over there. I could heal you. I could protect you. Why are you going to Asherah? She just a deity of agriculture.
When in fact on the other side of the book,
Screech owl.
you should heal yourself.
You should heal yourself on the other side.
I'm just using that idea.
Right. So it's almost like you have two diametrically opposed thoughts.
Right.
One thought is saying, "Listen, you follow me or else."
Or else.
You see what I'm saying? And I know someone's gonna say, "Well, you don't know God." Well, I am God, but anyway, you don't know God, so you don't know the thoughts of God or whatever the case may be. I'm like, yo, listen, if you call him Father in Abba, right? I know how I love my children, and I know a lot of viewers know how they love their children. Mm-hmm. And like Yeshua said, if your child asks you for an egg, or I'm gonna say a piece of bread, are you gonna give him scorpions and snakes?
Right.
If your child doesn't agree with you, are you gonna kill him?
Well, back then, brother, times where I'm playing the Malak jank now. Back then, I go to my own mother. I used to ask these questions as a little boy, and my mom would say God was different then. I never understood that.
I thought he was same.
But she was telling the truth, though.
Right.
If she's talking about an aspect of time and the perception of what people had of Yahweh.
Right.
And like George Collins said, he if you disobey him, you're gonna die, you're gonna burn in hellfire. But he loves you.
Right. And circular reason says that makes sense.
Right.
But you know what though?
Right.
That is commonly what men do amongst men.
You heard a brother say it. We raise our children up. You chastise that child. You spank that child. You raise that child up in nah. That's not, I can go for that for a God, but not for the Creator.
Slavery.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
and
that's a word. That's a very important word that you brought up.
Let me use indenture servitude because I no disrespect to the Slavic people.
Nah, but I like slavery for the point of the conversation.
Right.
Because we have to ask, how was the text used to promote what it promoted in those people,
right,
opposed to what it promoted in our people? It powered those people up.
Right.
They became gods.
Some of them, right.
They actually stood in the seat of their godhood. I'm gonna say it like that because we're all guys.
Right.
So they stood in the seat of their godhood and they got us into a mental place where we were lesser. Right. Just like the ancient gods.
Right.
Right.
Which is, and I know my man gonna be on it, if you read a lot of law, English law, and you read it closely, you'll understand that they're talking about themselves every time they say Lord.
Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Every time they say Lord, they are talking about themselves.
Right.
If you read anything Masonic, anything that's dealing with the law, expressions of law, you see the word Lord, they talk about themselves.
Right.
Which is why predominantly, I mean, if you look at the function of these certain states of office, right, they act in the capacity of a god.
Right.
I think we kind of talked on it briefly. The system of law was given to you by God.
Right.
Or the gods.
Right.
They were already advanced beings that came here and gave us a way to they took us away from the what's that word you use?
Chthonic.
Chthonic. They took us away from the chthonic grassroots down to earth way of being in tune with the earth and gave us civilization or a system.
But historically, man, there was a point in time where to be chthonic was that was the way of life.
Right. Can you explain what chthonic is?
So chthonic is nothing more than a term that describes having basically an attachment to the land, right? Yes. So you are governed by the land. You are governed by the rhythm of the earth, right? You understand what a lot of people say. Well, not a lot of people, but you understand what they say natural law.
Yes. Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
And when you get into like the Greek understandings of Chthonic, a lot of people relate it to the underworld. The thing is the underworld is below Olympus. That's where the gods reside.
Right.
So if you understand, colonialism isn't new. I'm not speaking against anybody. I'm just saying colonialism isn't new.
Right.
And when these gods came, they colonized the earth.
Right.
Right.
And it was already beings here that had a system, a way of living, a way of being in tune with the earth. And that was the beginning of a lot of shifts and changes. Sacrifices, as you say, the blood and so on and so forth, where it wasn't none of that before.
Okay. Right. And that goes back to the Kali Yuga.
Yes.
Because from what I understand or what I was taught, this blood thing started after one of the great cataclysms because the vegetation was destroyed. So the only thing that we could do was migrate with the animals. We were following the animals for food. That way we found the vegetation because they know where it was. But there was limited vegetation. So we started to consume them we were getting our vegetation with second party.
Okay.
The deer eat the grass, we eat the deer. Then it became ritualistic not to consume the blood because that was the life. Now, some stayed in those ways, some didn't. Then it became husbandry and farming and agriculture once we started to resettle. And this is where Egypt was supposedly special from. I don't particularly believe that personally because it's a whole lot of evidence that it happened in Kush or Nubia before that. But, well, excuse my language. Sitting down and staying where you were at is that's in layman's terms, the most simplest way to put it. Instead of chasing the animals, we started to breed the animals. Instead of going and looking for the grain, we brought the seeds back to the house, and we planted them and we grew them. And that's the beginning of that civilization. Or what they call now the beginning. Egypt was the beginning of civilizations. It probably was the beginning of that civilization. And when you're talking what we know present day as 3100, 3400 BC, that's early. That's
yeah.
And you know, that's early.
Right.
And this was Namor or Men's, whatever one you want to call them. That was him bringing together of the two lands. So what was going on in the land separate before that?
Right.
So to start and say that civilizations were started in Kemet, that's kind of misleading.
Yeah.
To say that.
Agree.
Right. To say that that's when we sat down. But there's cave paintings and cave art that show hunting, chasing the animals, farming, all through Central Africa, West Africa. You know, you got the Khoisan, the Khoi people. You got the San. They were farming, hunting, where they call them hunter-gatherers. But a civilization that sat down was the civilization that supposedly stopped eating the meat or became more civilized, is the way that they'll put it, when it came to the consumption of animal. But that consumption of blood was supposedly have started after one of the great destructions where we couldn't consume what we needed to consume. We started to follow the animals and hunt. I'll put it that way. The development of different tools, the Clovis point, the spearheads, the arrowheads, the development of the bow and arrow during this time, how it went from a sharp projectile on a stick to develop to the bow. All of this is technology advancing through this time point.
Right.
From a rock to the rock being attached to a stick. The development of that and the axe and all of this happened in that time span, which we know had to be years,
right,
for that development to happen.
Exactly.
But that technology was coming about during this time period.
Right.
So did we have we reconciled that idea?
Well, I would say, like I said, it was all about control of the narrative and controlling the people, controlling the society. Because once you get into like you said, a group of people that's starting to farm, somebody got to control the land so it don't go outside somebody else's land. Right. Then when you're talking about animals, it gets to the point of, okay, you're killing this animal for what?
Right.
Now we can say we're eating it, but now we have to give thanks.
Right.
So we got to give thanks back to the gods.
Right.
So we offer the blood.
Right.
Well, we're gonna offer the blood since we ain't gonna eat the blood. We ain't gonna drink the blood.
Right. We got to give him something back.
Got to give him something back.
He gave this to us.
We got to burn it up.
Right. I personally believe at one point in time, they literally was giving the meat to the guys.
To the gods, right? Yeah. And I would say yes.
They still do.
Because at one time you could say we weren't eating meat.
Right.
We were just eating the vegetables and the plants, or let's say the help me out.
What, produce?
You just sucking the
air?
juices out of
nectar
the plants, the nectar
right.
out of plants.
Right.
Basically that's all you were doing.
Right.
Until these gods came in and said, yo, I'm the powerful one. I can do this. Y'all can't do this.
Right.
So, but when he goes, or when he go back wherever he came from, he goes back, but you still profiting because he just told you, yo, I did all this for you.
Right.
So now you have to give back. This is how you give back.
It's interesting because it's so many. Again, every time we talk about certain things, I see another dimension to it, and it's like we talk about karma, which is action, cause and effect. If I go flick a domino, if it's going through the whole house, I could come back later and see what it's doing downstairs.
Right.
And from my understanding, the way soul development works is that not only are we talking about being fractals of God and we were here and so on and so forth, these are just vehicles.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And I would even propose, because I've been told, that some of these people are Yahwehs.
Right.
We might call them Orions, Palladian, Lyrans, or whatever the case may be. But some people are inhabiting the souls of these beings that came.
Right.
They just forgot. Because now they're going through a human incarnation. And maybe they're going through some troubles and strifes based on the troubles and strife they gave humans.
Right.
Narcissism.
Right.
So I don't subscribe to black, white, some people say yellow man, red man, and so on and so forth. I subscribe to we're human beings having this human experience. And if the soul needs a vehicle to get a certain experience to balance out some karma, he gonna take it.
Right. Yeah. Right.
He could have been a Chinese man in 2 lifetimes ago.
Right.
And he learned certain lessons and he wants to learn how it is to be, I don't know, I don't even want to use certain terms, but he might incarnate as an African American.
Right.
To have that, whatever that African American experience is at that point in what we call time.
Right. Right. Now
because you got different experiences.
Yeah.
Similar, you got 1672 experience. You got 1908 experience. You got 1967 experience.
Which really are all the same experience.
It's really the same experience with different forms, different degrees.
Right.